Ancient Egyptian writing in the form of iconic hieroglyphs is a very complicated system. In fact, Jean-François Champollion had to rely on the findings of several researchers who preceded him, such as English Egyptologist Thomas Young, before he succeeded in cracking the code behind these fascinating drawings that were ancient Egyptians' method of writing. In this episode, you will learn 3 tips that are easy to understand and remember to help you make sense of these mysterious hieroglyphs. For those of us who are used to a 26-letter alphabet read and written from left to right, hieroglyphs must definitely seem very puzzling. But here are a few simple things to look out for, beginning with a rule of quadratic blocks. While we write our words by placing letters one after another, ancient Egyptians wrote their hieroglyphs in virtual squares that were called quadrats in Egyptology. Even though there were no strict rules regarding the position of signs inside these quadrats, there were a few conditions. The drawing of the hieroglyphs had to be aesthetic and occupy the space of each quadrant. So writing signs one after another was out of the question. The way hieroglyphs are positioned shows you that they were written in a near-perfect quadrant. The second tip, also another easy one to remember, allows you to know the direction in which hieroglyphs must be read, because they can be written both from left to right and right to left. This tip applies just as well whether signs are written in a row or in a column. Once you notice this, reading becomes easier because the direction remains the same throughout the row or column. To know which direction to read hieroglyphs, simply look out for any human or animal signs. There are almost always some, and observe the direction in which you are looking. Then read the hieroglyphs in the direction going towards them. Ancient Egyptians used both reading directions for 2 main reasons. The first originated from the fondness for symmetry, harmony, and duality. So to emphasize a word, a phrase, or even a sentence that was important to them, they wrote it twice. And to make sure that it was more pleasant to look at, they changed the reading direction to create a spectacular mirror effect. The second reason was that since they didn't have any punctuation, changing the reading direction provided a clear visual clue that helped the reader to easily differentiate who was saying what. This is an effective method that is often seen on objects used for communication, such as slide, through which one or several characters seek to communicate with one or several deities, with the pharaoh himself or with the dead. Our writing system is based on an alphabet of 26 letters that we use to create all the sounds in our vocabulary. Hieroglyphics, however, are a more complicated system because they use 3 categories of signs. Some of these signs represent a sound, while others represent a word or an idea. Then there are others that are silent but provide additional information about the word that they follow. And if that is still not complicated enough, some hieroglyphs may combine several functions. However, when you study hieroglyphs, you realize that although the writing system is very different from ours, the logic behind it is easy to understand. The hieroglyphs in the first category represent one or several sounds. For example, the owl is read as M, the coil of rope is Ua, and the lizard is Asha. The hieroglyphs in the second category represent a word or an idea. For example, the sign, which is pronounced pet, indicates the night sky and is translated as sky, and the circle with two diagonally crossed bars indicates a city, seen from the sky crossed by two paths. This hieroglyph is pronounced Niyut and means city. Both of these hieroglyphs refer to tangible things. So how do the Egyptians represent abstract things? Well, they just found ways that were understandable by logic. Two moving legs are used to represent walking, and an outstretched arm holding a weapon simply meant strength. Pictograms played the same role. They were drawings that were used to convey an idea. The last category has a somewhat scary sounding name, determinative hieroglyphs. These are mute signs that are put at the end of most words, and their role is to be more specific about the meaning of these words. So at the end of names, we will see the sign of a seated man for masculine names and a seated woman for feminine names. The idea is simple. If we look at the name Maya, which was a name that could be given to both men and women in ancient Egypt, if it's followed by the sign of a man, it's a man's name. And if it's followed by the sign of a woman, it's a woman's name. If it's followed by the sign of a flower, that means it's the name of a flower. And if it's followed by a bee, well, you get the name of a children's cartoon character in hieroglyphs. Would you like to start writing hieroglyphs on your computer? It's easy as ABC. Simply download the GSesh freeware developed and shared online by Serge Rosmonduc.